I'm Chef Frank, this is Protocooks, and today we're making spaghetti carbonara. Before we get started with the video, I remind you guys to like, subscribe, and follow. And as always, the recipe's in the description down below. Spaghetti carbonara, one of my favorite pasta dishes of all time. It is super simple, and it just takes a little bit of technique to make this dish right. I really didn't grow up eating this. We didn't have it at all growing up, and not until my later years when I started to cook in restaurants. I worked with someone who lived in Rome, and they taught me the right way to do this. And that's what I'm going to show you today, the technique to do a proper spaghetti carbonara. Spaghetti carbonara is a Roman dish, and there's a lot of theories as to how it got its name. One of the legends I know is that the carbonari, or the woodcutters that made charcoal for fuel for heating, would eat this pasta. Maybe it was a quick and simple dish for them, or the charcoal dust looks like the black pepper in the pasta. I want to know the legends that you've heard of on why carbonara is called carbonara. I've done another video on this where I've had a huge wheel of cheese. I did an Epicurus. I'm going to link the video up top over here. And that was kind of like an exploded version of this dish, like a super fancy version. But pretty much this dish is a very simple dish. And that's what I'm going to stick with here today. We're going to talk about that technique of making a great carbonara. Here's what I have for the ingredients. I have pancetta. You can use pancetta. Traditionally, it's guanciale, which is cheek that's been cured. And if you have bacon, if that's all you have, use the bacon. Traditionally, it's not a smoky pork product that goes in this, but bacon will work. I'm using pancetta. Eggs, good fresh eggs that are room temperature. I want the eggs to be room temperature because we're putting hot pasta on these, and I want the pasta to basically cook the eggs, and if they're cold, they're not going to cook. And I usually do about 1 egg per person. Good cheese. Parmesan and pecorino romano, both Italian cheeses. Don't buy that crappy stuff that's already pre-grated on the shelf. If you buy grated cheese, make sure that they're truly from Italy. They're not some knockoff brand. Good pasta. I use dry pasta for this. Now, fresh pasta works for a lot of things, but I don't like fresh pasta for carbonara. I think that a good dry pasta stands up really well to this. I use a nice Italian brand, Di Cecco, Barilla. If you have a better brand, please use that. But don't buy the bargain basement pasta for this. Fresh cracked black pepper, super important for this. Do not buy pre-ground black pepper. Fresh ground black pepper, get it. So one of the first things I want to do is grate my cheese. And like I said, get good cheese for this, grate it yourself. You can use a microplane for this. Microplane works really well, but it just takes forever to do, so I tend not to use microplane. What I do try and do is get a cheese grater with the smallest holes on it, and I grate it fresh. I usually cut the cheese in a hand, something that fits in my hand, right? This doesn't fit in my hand, and this is what I teach people all the time. Make a piece of cheese so it's small enough to fit in your hand. I get a container to grate into, not on my board, and then I lay it on its side and I just push lightly. No need to struggle. This is super easy. Look at this. I'm barely putting any pressure. Okay? So for this recipe, I'm making pasta for about 2 people. I'm probably going to use a half to 3/4 of a cup of each cheese for 2 people. I'm going to grate this. This is the Parmesan. Parmesan has a nice nuttiness to it. It has a nice saltiness to it. The pecorino is a lot sharper. It has a little more bite to it. So that's why I like to use both of them. I think that's just a great compliment. If you want to just use one cheese, it's totally up to you. So I'm just pushing this. Instead of doing it like this, I always feel like pushing is a lot easier. And it's always better if you are going into a dish, because now I have a little cheese on my board, but now I don't have to scrape anything up. Everything's already kind of like captured for me here. Okay, so that's good for that. I'm going to turn this around. Again, cut a piece of cheese that fits in your hand and grate your pecorino. I'm so mature. I want these cheese to be kind of like light and airy so that it melts fairly quick. All right, I'm gonna put this little piece of cheese here, and that should be more than enough for 2 portions. Next thing we want to do is cook out our pancetta. I put a few drops of vegetable oil in the pan. I just don't like putting my bacon or my guanciale or my pancetta in a dry pan. This helps it render out a little quicker. And all I want to do with this is render it out, which means get the fat out and lightly brown it. All the fat that we render out is going to go into the finished product. I always find the fattier, the better. I don't want this to be crispy. I just want it to be light brown. I want it to have a little chew to it. I like it to be have a little chew to it at the end product. But I don't want the fat to be like rubbery and bouncy. So you got to find that nice little happy medium. So this is good. It's only been about a minute or two. It doesn't take long. My pieces of pancetta were really small. So if you cut it a little larger, it might need to go a little longer. But my pancetta is really small. All I'm going to do is take this, put it on the stove in the back, and keep it warm. I want this to stay warm. The next step is to make the egg and cheese mixture. Again, my eggs are room temperature, and my cheese at this point is room temperature as well. I don't want anything to be cold. So remember what I said earlier, it's 1 egg per person, so I'm making 2 portions here. So just 2 eggs. And I'm probably gonna use about 1/4 cup of each cheese per person. So I'm eyeballing it because I'm a chef. I have some Parmesan, I have some pecorino. And in this case, I like a little more cheese. I like this to be cheesy. And then I'm gonna hit it with some salt. Remember, the cheese is salty, but we still need a little bit of salt. And lots of fresh cracked black pepper. Fresh cracked, please. I said it earlier, I'm gonna say it again. The better pepper you have for this, the better the dish. Don't buy the stuff off the shelf. Okay? And all I'm gonna do with this is make kind of like a paste. See that? It's kind of like a cheesy and eggy paste. I'm gonna put just a little more cheese in there, so maybe a little more than 1/2 cup per person, because, you know. Right, so we have this nice kind of mixture of cheese and egg. That's what I want, right there. Beautiful. Now we're gonna cook the pasta and assemble the dish. So in my experience, you know, I'm looking at things and adjusting as I go. So I eyeballed the cheese and I decided I needed more cheese. So you should be doing that too. You can adjust as you go. Like a recipe, I tell my students all the time, a recipe is a guideline. If you think it needs more cheese, put more cheese in it. Don't be afraid to adjust. My pasta water is boiling and I'm gonna season this. I want my water to be sea salty. I'm gonna put most of that in. And how do you tell if your pasta water is sea salty? You taste it. It is not good. It is actually kind of gross just to taste salt water. You know, if you've ever been in the ocean, you know. Make sure you get it all over the place. I think that's good, sea salty. Make sure you have your Star Wars tasting spoon that you got from a cereal box. My water is sea salty. I have everything ready to go. I'm gonna put the pasta in. I'm gonna cook about 1/4 pound because this is gonna be an entree, okay? If you were serving it as an appetizer, you'd probably do less per person. The pasta goes in, and usually I just drop it in, and then I'm gonna swirl it around until it shrinks in, and I'm just gonna keep on moving around so it doesn't stick. This water needs to be a full boil. You don't want to put pasta in unless the water is boiling. You want the water to come up as quick as possible, after you add the pasta in the water. I just keep on turning it and twisting it so the pasta doesn't stick together. And that's it. We just keep on cooking it. You have to kind of tend to this. At this point, you have to pay attention to what's going on. You can't walk away. The pasta's going to cook for about 7 to 10 minutes. And then we're gonna assemble the dish. Now is the moment of truth. I have everything I need in front of me. I have my egg and cheese mixture, my pancetta that's hot, my pasta that is just about ready. I'm really close. I have a pair of tongs and the serving bowl that I'm gonna use. I have some salt and pepper on the side just in case I need it. I doubt I will. And I have a ladle because pasta water is important here. I am going to take my pasta directly out of the water and put it into the bowl. I'm not going to strain the whole pot of pasta. You need to save your pasta water. It is nice and starchy and a little salty, and it helps make your pasta, your finished pasta, a little bit better in this case. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my pancetta and all the fat, add it to my egg and cheese mixture, right? Fat's in there. I'm gonna take my pasta out of the water. I'm not too particular with draining this. I want the water in there. The pasta water is gonna help cook the egg. It's gonna give us a little bit of seasoning, right? I'm gonna add just a few drips in there with my ladle. Just a little bit of that pasta water over the top, and we stir. This is where this all comes together, right? People think there's cream in this dish. There's no cream in this dish. Just by doing this method is where you get that nice creaminess, right? Mix, 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 stir, stir, stir. Look at that, it's coming together, right? You gotta stir this really good. Get all the cheese in there. See, the cheese melts, the egg cooks. Give it a good stir. Right? And then we plate it up, okay? That's why I have my plate right here. I have a nice cheesy, creamy mixture here. This shouldn't be sticking together so much and be lumpy and too stiff. You want this to be a little on the soft side. Okay? And that is it. That is spaghetti carbonara. Look at that baby. Getting this pasta to the table hot is super important. It's done. You want to get it to the table quickly. A little fresh cracked black pepper on top. Serve it to your family and guests. All right, let's give it a taste. I can tell you it already looks great. You can see it's super creamy. It is not soggy at all. The cheese and egg mixture sticks to the pasta. It's got that really nice porkiness from the pancetta, the saltiness and the sharpness from the cheese, and it's super creamy. You gotta try this. If you've never had a good carbonara, you gotta make this at home. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe. Hit the little bell to get notified of when we have a new video out. We have merch in the link down below. Need Salt t-shirts, I Control the Salt t-shirts. I wanna thank our patrons on Patreon for supporting us. Thank you. We also have a P.O. box. If you want to send us anything, it's in the description down below. I hope you enjoyed pasta carbonara. I'm Chef Frank. This is Protocooks. Have a good one.